Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello.
Caring for a child with a disability, a developmental difference, or a life threatening illness reshapes a mother's world in ways few people truly understand. For many women, the journey begins quietly with therapy appointments, school meetings, hospital corridors, late night research, and learning a whole new language of care. But for some extraordinary women, that deeply personal journey doesn't stay contained. It expands outward into advocacy, into awareness, into building spaces, communities, and institutions not just their with not just their own children but countless others. Today's panel is about the power of care, not as sacrifice alone, but as leadership. Care that becomes science, care that becomes healing, care that becomes community, and care that becomes change. We are joined today by four remarkable women, each with a different story, a different lens, and a different way of transforming love into impact. To begin with, a very dear friend of mine, Rabia Aziz, licensed psychotherapist, a life coach, clinical trauma specialist. We've got Huda, who's on the board of Umeed Par, a non-profit organization providing emotional and financial support to children with cancer and their families. Thank you so much for being here, both Rabia and Huda. Another dear friend of mine, Maheen, who runs Pakistan's first autism friendly space that offers a safe and inclusive and sensory rich environment. She's a special education consultant, an autism specialist, dedicated to supporting neurodivergent children and their families. We've got Farzeen, one of the directors at KDSP, and the head of the education committee there as well, that supports and facilitates children and adults with specialized programs that helps them integrate this to mainstream society. So thank you so much, every one of you, for being here, for taking out time, and for talking about something that we're so committed to and so passionately in love with. Um, so I'd like to begin with inviting each of you to go back to the moment when you realized that life, as you know it, had shifted. So I'd like to begin with Maheen, please, and then we move on.
Hi, thank you so much, Meher. So it's funny you asked that. I actually remember the exact moment. My elder son, so both my boys have autism. My elder son was less than 2 years old, about one and a half, and we'd taken him swimming. And I knew that he wasn't aware of danger. He didn't know what to do. He was very scared of going into the water. You know, my husband had to go with him. And then we saw a friend of ours, this couple, their child, who was younger than him. He walked along his mother, went, put on his floats, and went into the baby pool and was talking away. And I think that moment we just stopped and we thought, okay, there's something, but we didn't say anything to each other until the evening. And then we looked at each other and we said, we need to. I said, yes, like, to figure this out. There is something wrong. So that was the moment, and then it just started research and going and learning more about it, educating myself.
Thank you for sharing that. Moving on to Rabia.
Thanks, Meher. Thank you, Meher. Um, I think I was about 37 weeks pregnant, and I think pregnancy is that time which is very wholesome, and you want to be loved, and you want to share love, and you want everything to go well for the life brewing inside of you. And at that moment, while my final ultrasound was taking place, um, the sonologist told me, we can't see the baby's face. Her face doesn't seem to appear. And I remember those words becoming very deafening for me. I couldn't understand. I said, I don't understand what you're saying. What do you mean you can't see her face? I mean, we are weeks away from delivery. Um, how is this going to happen? And that just began a series of anxious moments um, until nobody could give me an answer to what was going on. And I think the pain of not being able to help my unborn child was the moment I'd already met Alia before she'd come into this world. Um, that moment still gives me goosebumps, you know, being so young, um, wanting to give birth to your child and not knowing what's going to happen, what's the eventuality going to be like. So that was the first moment I knew that something's not going right, something's not going as my earlier pregnancy or delivery had gone. Um, and it was a moment of uncertainty, and that's how I met that moment.
Thank you for sharing that, Rabia. Moving on to you, Farzeen.
Yeah, thank you, Meher. Um, Somewhat similar to Rabia's. We did not know of Alea's diagnosis until the time of her birth. We had a suspicion, but it was confirmed when she was born. And I think that single moment that you are referring to was when I had a C-section, but I was conscious through it. And the doctor, she just said to me, oh, you know, your baby has Down syndrome. And I, although we did have a suspicion before, I think it had never really sunk in. Like, I feel like I had been in denial the whole time until that moment came. And it was just, you know, a shattering of a dream of the perfect child that you think that you will have. Yeah, I think that was a moment for me. And yeah, later found out that there's no such thing as a perfect child and all children are perfect, but yeah, that's where we're at.
Thank you.
So for me, my daughter was 3 years old when she was diagnosed with cancer. I think the change that came over me did not come until her second relapse. My own personal journey has taught me that if you don't learn the lesson, it keeps coming back. And that's why the first relapse happened, I didn't learn. Second relapse is when things inside of me started changing. Like there was a different understanding of things, a different perspective of things, and that, and I am very aware of the change that came over me at that point, and that I feel is what has brought me to this point, and I'm very grateful for that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute honor to be in your presence and to hear your journeys and to hear the truth. And I'm sure all that you have been doing for all of these years has made a lot more than just an impact into many lives around us. So thank you so much for sharing this part of you today. To begin with, I'd like to ask my first question with Dr. Noorani. You bring both clinical expertise and lived experience as a mother, Maheen. What do parents most often misunderstand in the early days of an autism or developmental diagnosis? And what do children mostly need at that stage? If you could just share, please.
Sure. I think with autism and neurodivergence, it comes with time, the symptoms. You can't tell too early on. The parents often miss the milestones because of our culture as well. because, you know, if a child, usually there's a speech delay is one of the most significant and common symptoms, and eye contact. And eye contact is easy to miss, not responding to name. But with speaking, a lot of them say, and this was said to me, that, you know, oh, ladke to der se bolte hain. You know, it's fine. He'll start talking. There's nothing wrong. With my second one, who also has autism, when I had concerns, everybody said to me, you're being paranoid because of the first one. There's nothing wrong with him. He's fine. So, you know, that instead of saying that, if the parent feels there's something, please go get an assessment. There is no harm. At the most, the thing you need to start immediately is early intervention, which is therapies and, you know, whatever the child needs to help him, you know, give him that support, or her, that they need. And the earlier you give it, the better it is. We all know that early intervention is key because their brains are more flexible. You'll teach them how to communicate. So at that point, you know, agar koi kehta bhi hai, agar if a teacher says it, usually it'll be the teacher or the mother or a pediatrician. There is no harm in getting an assessment done. Even if you have to get early intervention, it's only going to benefit the child. So that's what I have to say to parents. Even if your child is a typical child, early intervention can only do good things.
Thanks so much for that, Maheen. I think I'd like to just stress on 2 points before we move on to the next question. What you said is so lovely, that early intervention makes all the difference, but also the fact that when we're as mothers, as parents, when we're talking, or as individuals who are experienced in this field, when we talk to other people, creating awareness, I think one of the most common answers is that there's nothing wrong. And it takes a long time, perhaps, as an individual, as a parent as well, to just take that moment and recognize that it's all right, to just accept or to just know. Acceptance to bahut baad mein aati hai, you know.
Yes,
It takes time to get there, but and just to honor that truth for oneself and for the child. So thank you so much for sharing that. How does play-based inclusion, Maheen, like what you've created at Funklusion, support regulation and growth in ways therapy perhaps sometimes may not?
So therapy is demand and command based. So that's, the learning is happening, but you are putting, I wouldn't say pressure, but you're teaching the child. So play based may, especially Conclusion, is a space that I've created for neurodivergent and typical children, so that they can just be however they want to be, because they also need processing time. Just because they don't have the same reactions or expressions, we often forget what their needs are because they're so different from ours. So Conclusion is also, it looks very different from a regular play area. It's very soothing. It's not stimulating at all. And the philosophy behind it is that they should be free to make their own decisions. They should have control, and they can engage with anything as and when they want. And this, over the time that I've seen, it calms them down and they are happy. And when that happens, a lot of new avenues open up. They might be more open to textures, they might be more open to social skills, they might be more open to learning a new word because they are calm. We call it green light, red light, green light. So I think.
Thank you. Thank you. That's lovely to know. Thank you so much for sharing that. My next question is to Rabia. Rabia, you work closely with trauma, both individual and collective. What emotional patterns do you see usually, or perhaps most commonly in mothers, of children with special needs? And what emotions do you think that they really allow themselves to acknowledge?
Thank you for that question, Meher. I think understanding trauma culturally is very important. You know, a little earlier you were talking about acceptance. And unfortunately, acceptance does not come until well later into formative years. So identification may take place, moving along may take place, but that acceptance just doesn't come in. The trauma of being a mother to a differently abled child eh, is created by the people who reside around the child and the mother. So the first pattern is creating difficult narratives, being able to face those difficult narratives, condemning narratives, making it difficult. I mean, we are very privileged. We are here, we are dressed up, we are sitting on a stage, we are talking about our stories, but 90% of the masses don't get to leave their homes. They have to wait for their male representative to be able to take them out of their homes.
Yes.
So the trauma of lack of independence, lack of finances, there is so much that हम जितनी बात करते जाएंगे उतना ही वो खुलता जाएगा, right?
Absolutely.
So it's a very deep wound which really needs to be addressed from the inside out.
Absolutely. I love how you actually put it. It needs to be addressed inside out. And I think what's been happening over the years with extraordinary women like you, I think we've been having a lot more conversations, a lot more groups and building communities in order to, have conversations that are without judgment, and without the cultural taboos that we mostly are surrounded with. And I love how you said that, we need to have um, conversations that lead us to a little bit more, right? A little extra, a little one step further into creating what we actually would like to create in terms of inclusion. Um, how does community change the nervous system from survival to safety?
I love that question because survival and safety, it's like as though talking about two polar ideas or
Yeah.
ideologies actually. Um, हम ऐसे मुआशरे से ताल्लुक़ रखते हैं जहाँ पे लोग क्या कहेंगे का बैनर जो है वो एक खंजर की तरह खुपता है, right?
Absolutely.
So we are so reliant and dependent and insecure about what others will have to say, what others' perception is for us.
Or what they'll think.
What they think, and how can we translate and transform according to those perceptions or perspectives. So I think to be able to understand that if we want to survive safely, then we need to work out safety nets. We need to have those tribes in place. And if if we don't have a tribe in place, because what is our go-to? Usually the go-to mechanism is, oh, the home is a safe space. But most of the time, the home is not a safe space. The family members turn out to be the most unsafe people in our communities. So to be able to gather a tribe which will stand together and support you, your ideas, your story, whatever your challenges are, that becomes the beginning threshold for you to be able to walk on. And that becomes your support system.
Lovely, thank you. Care is often an invisible emotional labor, emotional, physical, and thank you for sharing that, Rabia. Just a quick question, sort of building on to what you just said. I love how you said survive. I know my question had that word, but I'm wondering if we were to change that word and to perhaps, if not use thrive, maybe use something else that would touch or lead this conversation into, a deeper level.
So my absolute favorite word is ठहराव.
I like that.
क्योंकि ठहराव एक ऐसा अल्फाज है, you can say,
Balance.
subsidence, there's lots of words, but लेकिन जिस तरह ठहराव hit करता है वो कोई और लफ्ज़ नहीं hit करेगा. क्योंकि एक माँ की रूह से पूछो कि उसको कितनी बर्दाश्त की ज़रूरत है और कितने ठहराव की ज़रूरत है. And so, if you can just encompass and sort of absorb what ठहराव can be in your heart, in your soul, that's, that's the word that should segue every conversation.
Absolutely beautiful. It's giving me goosebumps. Thank you for sharing that. Um, so, my next question is to Huda. Huda, you've spoken about gratitude a lot and often during one of the most frightening journeys that you've been on, unimaginably, childhood cancer. How did gratitude become a source of strength rather than denial of pain?
So I'm, I was lucky enough to see the impact of gratitude during my journey. Um, little things like when and I have been in those positions where there was absolute darkness all around me, no sense of the situation at all, no reference point, nobody to help me understand the situation that we were in. Like there was absolute blindness. And at that point, um, with the doctor saying, most of the things are not working, um, and would give me that sliver of, I won't even call it hope, but it was. Um, what I used, how I used that was me talking to my Allah, and just saying, all that I've heard, all the things that are not working, I'm not even listening to that. And it's actually very, very difficult at that point to not run with the fear and literally let it carry you. It's very difficult to just stop there and say, okay, none of that, none of that. But that little sliver of hope, I am deeply, with an absolute open heart, just grateful for that. I actually saw that little sliver increasing every time I would be grateful for it.
How
And,
beautiful.
and, and the other things actually diminishing because I stopped uh, focusing on them and focusing just on the things that I was grateful for. And I saw how that increased while that diminished. So, so gratitude for me has actually paved my way, pretty much.
Thank you for sharing that. That's lovely. That's very beautiful. And I could see how wonderful it was just to see you share this, at the moment. Um, what we focus is what we get. Usually, these are some of the lines that we usually read while coaching, while talking, and I know Rabia and I've had many conversations around that as well. But yes, it you really focused on gratitude in a really beautiful way. So thank you for
Thank you.
sharing that.
Thank you.
And sort of carrying forward what you just said about hope. What did that look like for you? You know, not big hope, but perhaps daily
So
hope.
I realized, well into my journey, I realized looking at the end of the tunnel actually would scare me. It would actually make me not want to move even. It would make me just freeze. And what I saw with that was that you need that little bit of hope to keep you going. You need it. And you know what the best part is? It is always there. It is always there. You just need to look. You just need to sit back and look around you. There is always those moments of hope. And and for me, there were many.
Oh, lovely.
And I feel the more you look for them, the more you find.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that is why now I am of that belief that every day you start your day with hope and you end it with gratitude, and that's it.
Very beautiful.
Nothing more than that.
Beautifully said. Thank you. Thank you, Huda. Um, moving on to Farzeen, your journey into gut health and entrepreneurship began with fear during COVID,
Yes.
if I'm correct.
Yes, you
Yes.
are.
And the absolute love for your daughter. How did caring for a child with Down syndrome change how you think about health, prevention, and nourishment?
I think when you have a child who is different, there's just you had mentioned late night research in your opening lines, and I think that's always been a big one for me. So if I don't understand anything, I just like take a deep dive into what this is, and this is exactly how we've raised Alea also, right, through all her challenges and everything. And I think when COVID hit, we were so scared of how it would impact her because people with Down syndrome do have immune disturbances, which can make them more susceptible. I mean, we didn't know which way it would go. Um, so for me, it was like, okay, sure, vaccines are happening or the process of developing is happening, but what do we do to strengthen our immunity from the inside? Like, COVID, like everyone's getting COVID, and some people are getting affected, a whole lot, and some people are just like, asymptomatic. So how is that working? And then that led me down a rabbit hole of, okay, how do you increase your immunity, strengthen your immunity from the inside? And that led me to gut health. And that led me to the making of this little business that I have now. Um, but yeah, I think as a mother, you're always on your toes, right? Especially when you know that your child is extra vulnerable, marginalized also. So when it comes to like even seeking healthcare in institutions, you go and it's it's like almost, and the dialogue that I don't know, I'm sure many of us have heard, aap doctor na bane, when you
Yes.
go and so it's like, no, but I'm the mom, and
Yes.
I think I know a lot more than you do about my own child.
Yes.
So yeah, I feel like it's just constant research. It's just being hyper aware of what your child needs all the time.
Nice. And what does it mean for you to build a business um, that remains very much emotionally rooted in care
Yeah.
and not just commerce?
Yes, that's a really big one for me. I've always been, if I am doing a business, it should, the central question is like, what are you doing for others, right? So that was the question even when we set up KDSP, like, okay, we're so privileged in so many ways. Like, we are able to take our daughter to, the US and get her the best treatment that's available. But how are we giving back, right? I mean, if we are so privileged, then that's a huge responsibility on us to give back to society.
Yeah.
And so that's how KDSP was started. And similarly with my business also, it's just that there's a different kind of passion that comes with knowing that what you're putting out there in the world is helping others, right? It comes from a place of care. It comes from a place of passion. And I think that's, sure, money is nice, but um, but yeah, I think the real reward is when you hear from people, oh my God, it's helped us so much, it's helped me so much, it's helped my kids so much, especially for kids with autism also. Gut health is a big one for them, and there's so many moms who have read about the journey that I have been on, and they're like, wow, we started our kid on this drink, and it's been so beneficial. So it's just I feel so blessed and so lucky to be able to have this opportunity to serve.
Lovely. I think one of the conversations that we were having while we were sipping on coffee and tea was the fact that we're all so deeply passionate about creating awareness, about having conversations, about really hearing that someone, what you just said, somebody coming back to you and telling you that, my God, you know what, I'm also going through the same thing, or I'm also feeling the same way. And I'm so glad that there's somebody out there who can sort of relate to this feeling, or just understand, or maybe even just hear. Sometimes we just need to be there for somebody to hear. um, and that leads me to my next question, which is for all of you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about if there was a moment with you, and I'm sure there were many, but maybe just one moment where you sort of surprised yourself with the strength that you showed or had, um, and how you unlocked it. So anybody could go. I mean, this is for all of you. Just a few snippets around it.
I can go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the one time that I actually realized my strength was during the time my daughter was undergoing a bone marrow transplant. We were in Belarus, Minsk, a country that I'd never been before. We landed there for her treatment. Um, and now this was, everything new. And the transplant unit was so a floor in the hospital, which was very secluded. Uh, Anyone going in, uh, and if they came out, going back in would be a whole process of showering and a lot of sanitization. There was COVID was at its peak at that point as well. Um, so I was my daughter's primary caregiver. I was in the room with her, which was a small little cubicle of a room. I was locked in there for 50 days, where I had to wear a mask, a headgear. I had to wear a sanitized robe, socks, gloves, and I had to sleep in that. And I am a claustrophobic person, so wearing a mask on a regular basis would be difficult. To be in that little cubicle, to sleep in that while dealing with a bone marrow transplant of your child, I mean, there was just too much going on. And at that point, for me to be very present, to be very grounded, to be very present with the situation, I think that took a different kind of strength out of me, and I'm can only be grateful for the fact that I had that. And what I realized also was, we all have it.
Yeah.
We all have it. We just need to tap into it.
Yes.
So
Thank you for
part.
sharing.
Thank
What a, I mean, it's unimaginable to even just hear you speak about it, and what I'm constantly hearing from all of you is this resilience that you all are talking about, this strength that comes from that resilience. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Rabia, I know you want to say something.
I'm going to now.
Meher, you just said that resilience that you can tap into. And sometimes I wonder whether one needs to be able to tap into that resilience, or what kind of I think somebody used the word rabbit hole. Farzeen, it was you.
Yes.
The rabbit hole you have to crawl into, whether it's dark, whether it's dingy, whether all kinds of creatures are coming towards you. And I think one of the moments that defines strength, my inner strength for me, was it was 48 hours after I'd given birth to Alia. Alia had been diagnosed with Apert syndrome. My stitches from the C-section were very, very raw at that point and oozing. And here I was sitting with privilege, personal attention, and a lot of resources at my doorstep. And yet, as I waited 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour with a newborn baby with all kinds of challenges, no fingers, fused bones, and the PA at the hospital clinic told me, when I told him that, I have a special needs child and मुझे थोड़ा सा आप facilitate कर दें क्योंकि बच्ची को भूख भी लग रही है, इधर कोई दूध पिलाने की जगह नहीं है और मेरे टांकों में बहुत दर्द हो रहा है, मैं और नहीं बैठ सकती. एंड उसने मुझे टर्न अराउंड करके बोला कि माजरत के साथ बीबी हम सब इधर स्पेशल हैं.
Wow.
So I think that moment, it was 13 years and some days ago where I realized that here I am, demanding aggressively
Yeah.
space and provision for myself. What about all of those people who don't have education, privilege, space, and the voice? So, that took to the conception of Special Needs Pakistan. And I think that creating that space, that first support group in Pakistan for families with different abilities, was my defining moment of strength.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Each one of you really carry these remarkable stories, and I wish we had a lot more time to talk about a lot more of this. But moving on to Maheen and Farzeen, if you'd like to add in
Yeah,
perhaps
I
short
can go.
instances,
So-
yeah. So sorry.
going?
Go ahead, Farzeen.
I think for me, the instance when I realized, so when Alea was just born, and I found out about her diagnosis, my mind went instantly into 10, 15 years into the future. Will she be able to talk properly? Will she be able to make friends? Will she be able to go to college? Will she be able to get married, have a family, whatever? And it was just a constant, like so much fear around it. And I think for me, the moment it came like about 2 years after her diagnosis, and when she was about 2.5 years old, the realization that, I was so scared of people feeling sorry for her and, how she would be, pity, like people would pity my child. That was my biggest fear. And I realized that, the only person that I am feeling sorry for right now is the mother who I was, the new mother. And it was so unfair because society, like Rabia had mentioned, the people around us, they had stolen that moment of joy for me, for my firstborn child. Having a child is like such a moment of celebration. And because of the standards that are set by society, that was snatched away from me.
Yeah.
And that's when I think that moment of anger and, the injustice of it all, because by then I saw Alea for who she was, the beautiful, lovely, cuddly little baby that she was. And I was like, this is so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, and no one should ever have to go through that ever again.
Absolutely.
So I think for me it was that realization that, yeah.
And look how far you've all come. Honestly, I think a big tap on your shoulders. Maheen, thank you for sharing, Farzeen.
I think for me it was so. I don't know if the mic is good. Okay. For me it was I had the privilege of being able to move to the US for a while with my sons to get them the education and the support that they needed. But of course, I didn't have a lot of help there because it's a different culture. So I was very involved with them, both of them, and I was constantly, engaging with them, giving them activities, constantly doing meaningful learning and teaching. And of course, that was it had been years and 2 boys and me by myself. So eventually, I did burn out. And I had to hit rock bottom to then realize that what I'm doing the best I can, and it's enough. And I stopped feeling guilty at that moment. And that's when acceptance came. So that was 10 years after my son was born. And even though I was doing everything that needed to be done, but the acceptance came much, much later. So I think that was the moment where I said, I'm okay with this.
You know, these words, I'm okay with this, I'm doing the best I can, you know, this is enough. These are such easy sentences, honestly, you know, that literally 3 4 words, but it takes a lifetime for all of us just to say them out loud, just to feel them, just to actually even own them
And to
honestly,
believe in
and
them.
to believe in them, you know, honestly, with absolute honor and trust, and um, owning it, you know,
Yes.
for ourselves and not just for others. And I know I'm hearing, you know, log kya kahenge, and I'm hearing surrender, I'm hearing a lot of support, communities and groups and chatters and conversations. But honestly, it's that belief, that hope, that gratitude, that love that you all carry within you. You know, it's that inward to outward that Rabia was talking about, that really, you know, is giving me goosebumps at the moment as well. Just listening to all of you. Um, so I'd like to sort of ask a quick sort of a rapid fire from each one of you. And it'd be nice to sort of either share a word or a quick sentence that sort of comes to your mind. And we can start from either Maheen or Huda, whoever wants to go first. I'd like to ask one belief you had to unlearn as a mother. I know, Farzeen just took a deep sigh. I know we go through this as mothers in many different ways, but with you, remarkable women, you know, I'd love to hear.
So one thing that I had to unlearn was when I keep hearing "sab theek ho jayega."
Ooh, sab theek hai.
"Sab theek hai,"
Sab theek
and
hai.
everything will be okay.
Yes,
That I had to unlearn because you have to be okay with what you have.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
For me, it is. Um, Farzeen, can
Oh
you
my
want to
God,
take
no, I'm
over?
also thinking.
Is it the same for everybody?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the same. It's the same
I
for
think
everybody.
I think understanding and unlearning the balance between letting go and controlling.
Ooh,
So it's you're sitting in the middle of a seesaw, not being able to take any one side because with the challenges that face you, hope becomes it becomes a very fragile concept, and balance of control becomes a very, very tricky thing to strive for, almost like hunger for hope,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So for me, I think it's between the control, letting go of the control and still owning for the hope.
Yeah, beautifully said. I think most of us are honestly just wanting to have that feeling of certainty. You know, it's something that we run after. It's something that we hope for. It's those questions that Frazeen you were talking about. You know, it's in a split moment we're thinking about the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Uh,
And be in the now.
Yes,
You know, what is
yes.
happening right
What's
now.
happening? And,
So
and
just be.
in all of that, we forget to be. We forget to be the mother. We forget to be the human. We forget to be the one with hearts and emotions. We forget to be present not just with ourselves but also with the child. You know, so it's really I call it the art of letting go.
For me, it is also the belief that was a big one for me. The belief that everything is happening for you and not to you.
Ooh,
So that changed a lot for me.
that's a big one too.
Because when things are happening, when the challenges are there, at that point to realize that this also is there for my benefit.
Yes, that's a really powerful line. You know, just to turn the actual perspective, to see it from a different side, to see it from a very I'd say a meta position. You know that there's something in it. You
Absolutely.
know.
And I can actually, I remember certain moments which under normal circumstances, the old me would be scared. But the new me and the one that saw things a little differently, I actually saw that that particular challenge had come to actually help me and save my child and, protect her. It was actually a blessing that under normal circumstances it would be seen as a challenge. So
Lovely.
I think I can't believe I forgot while you had asked me this question, but for me, I think the biggest unlearning has been that self-care is selfishness for a mom who has a child with special needs. I think that applies to all moms also.
Yes.
There's all that guilt that comes with, oh, now you're a mother and you can only live for your children. I think I've like lost count of the number of times people have said this to me that, oh, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Like, you're a mother
Yes.
now. And I think that has been the most radical kind of shift that I have experienced for myself. That, asserting that, no, I also need to look out for myself. Yes, I have a child with special needs, but I can't take care of her if I'm not taking care of myself also. I think that has been one really big thing in my life. Yeah.
Lovely. And I think it's about shifting from that need to want.
Yeah.
It's like one should want to take care of themselves because you'd want to be full of love and joy and at peace in order to be able to give that to your child.
And I think as a mom with special needs, and all of us might
All
be
of
able
us,
to
I think,
relate,
yes.
is that there's so much judgment, right,
Yeah.
that you face. That, okay, if I want to take a trip by myself, for example,
Yes.
no, who's going to take care of your child? What are you like? What are you even thinking? And it plays so much on your mind also. Yes, there's this so much strength that you need to let go of that also, to let go of the control.
Yes.
Okay, she'll be taken care of. It's okay.
Yes.
So yeah, that's been a big learning curve for me too.
Lovely. And another question, and that goes for all of you, is one thing that perhaps every caregiver deserves, but rarely ever asks for.
Help.
Nicely put, Maheen.
Truly, I think not just mothers but caregivers, because
Yeah.
one of the things that we saw post COVID was people were dying. So mums were also dying, and their children were being left behind with other members of the family who are becoming caregivers and people of care. And to be able to ask, okay, exactly like Maheen said, to be able to ask, okay, I need help, I need support. क्योंकि जब भी पूछो कि भाई तुम्हारा ख्याल कौन रख रहा है,
Right.
तुम तो सबका ख्याल रख रही हो, but तुम्हारा ख्याल कौन रख रहा है?
Yeah.
And so to be able to also make that thought come in, okay, I need to look after myself, like Farzeen said, be selfish about self-care.
Lovely. Anything that you'd like to add?
I
Agreeing
agree
to
with
what
you.
Rabia
Universal
said.
truth, yes.
Lovely. One small act that made the biggest difference in your journey.
For me, I think it still is one day at a time. Like having that mindset and not thinking, same, I think it's this very similar theme, being in the now, looking at what I have at the moment, what I can give to my child, what I can give to myself, as opposed to like thinking like 3-4 years down the road and worrying about that. I mean, nothing stays the same. Change is constant, and I feel like we forget that, and we just keep spiraling in this loop of worry and fear. So I think that one line, one day at a time, I think that has made all the difference in my life.
I think for me, it's moments, like moments of joy that come with my children, and I've started enjoying them more. And when I think back, because you forget,
Yeah.
very easily, that, you know, what they were like when they were younger, especially the difficult times. You forget those even more easily. So I think when you see that moment of joy or moment of smile or moment of progress where they've done something which they couldn't do before, I think that's what it is. That keeps you going.
Nice. Um,
You know, something that I really, really believe, and I also serve what I sell in a way, is keep reinventing yourself. No limitation. Impossible is not a word.
Absolutely.
And when I talk about reinvention, it means keep studying, keep dancing, keep thinking of what you can do for yourself. You know, uh, because honestly, life is too short. And if anybody is putting a limit, it is only your own self. So, you know, free yourself of those limits.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Um, Thank you so much, every one of you,
Thank you.
for sharing all of these experiences, feelings, for trusting us with your story. I'm mindful of the time, and I know that as much as I'd like to, sit here and talk for another hour or more, we're just going to move towards closing. If there's one thing that you'd like to share the audience or leave the audience with, we'd love to hear.
I think हम भूल जाते हैं कि ख़ुद को जानना और ख़ुद को समझना बहुत ज़रूरी है क्योंकि हम एक बिल्कुल एक ट्रक की बत्ती के पीछे भागने लग जाते हैं वी आर कॉन्स्टेंटली थिंकिंग ऑफ लाइफ एज अ रैट रेस
Yes.
without understanding that looking inward, self-word, will recreate our worth. And ख़वातीन की वर्थ यहाँ पे बहुत डिमिनिश कर दी जाती है क्योंकि जब वो लड़की होती है तो उसको शादी करनी होती है, जब वो शादी कर लेती है तो उसको माँ बनना होता है, जब वो माँ बन जाती है तो उसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज़ होती हैं. Take yourself out of those bounds and just look inside of you and find yourself. Thank you.
Beautifully said.
Also, for me, all my life I had been a people's pleaser. And I realized that people pleasing comes from a place of fear. The need or the want to be accepted and liked.
Yeah.
But it's not. Now I see the difference. I see the difference because now with Umeed Par, the fact that we go to hospitals, we go and we physically, with our own hands, when you give back, it feels different. It feels different, and not only does it feel different, it gives you immense joy.
Yeah.
The service to others coming from a place of love and compassion, I feel is something everyone ought to try, really. To feel that joy, to feel that, it's a feeling I can't even put in words.
I was going to say that it's something that words fall short.
They do.
They
do.
really do. That feeling.
And it's
that
a
you're
different
talking
feeling.
about.
Like I said, I mean, before I was doing that, but I was doing it from a place of fear, as opposed to doing the same thing from love.
Yeah,
It feels different.
I'm sure.
I think a message I would like to give the audience would be a request to actively seek out experiences where you can interact with people who are differently abled or have special needs. I think it's such a meaningful way in which you can enrich your own life and grow also, and it makes our work so much more easier. You'll be doing all of us a favor by trying to normalize differences and actually getting to know a person who is differently abled or a family member who has, a person who has special needs or who's been through a difficult experience. I think that is why we're here when we're talking about inclusion. I feel like everyone needs to carry that banner, and collectively, that's the only way we can change, and that's why we're here. So I think that would be my message: to actively seek out experiences in which you can interact with individuals who are different from yourselves.
Mine is similar to Farzeen's. I would say for the audience that keep learning. Because the more you learn, the more you experience it or learn about it, the less you will be scared of it, the less you will fear it. And for the mothers, my message is let go of the guilt. I haven't been able to completely, but I'm trying. So just let go of the guilt.
I think we're all working towards lots of, little projects that we make up or think about during this journey, of self-discovery and trusting ourselves. I think most importantly, just trusting how we come across, how we show up for others, for children, for partners, for friends, and I think most importantly for ourselves. And like we were talking about, to reinvent ourselves, to experience the joy. And I think what stands out most for me during this conversation is that care is not weakness. It is absolutely not. It is intelligence, it is courage, it is surrender, it is resilience, it is leadership, if anything but. So thank you to each and every one of you for taking out the time, for coming and sharing your journeys, your truth, your experiences, and to let us know what care can look like, to show us, and really to understand what gratitude and hope and letting go can feel like. Um, these women remind us that while none of us choose hardship, we do choose how we respond to it. And I think that is one of the key takeaways for me today. And that sometimes that response becomes legacy. And to every caregiver here today, to mothers, to everyone out here who's listening, your care matters, even when it feels unseen. And thank you to everyone out here who's taken our time to listen to us. So thank you and have a lovely afternoon.